I'd like to start off by apologizing for the long absence. We've been really busy with the holidays, then we've been under the weather, I've been nursing a broken foot. So unfortunately, I'm not able to do any more action-packed type videos for you right now, but I have prepared a script here for something that I wanted to address on my channel. So here goes. This is 3 things every martial artist needs to become effective. The key to effective martial arts lies not in what you train, but how you train. The reason MMA and BJJ gyms have such a high turnout of effective fighters is that their training is very athletic and they are constantly challenging themselves. Any martial art, if trained correctly, can be effective in self-defense or competition, but you have to first set your goals, be truthful with yourself about what you wish to achieve, and be critical of yourself, always challenging yourself to become better. That being said, here are 3 critical elements necessary to make any martial art effective. Number 1, striking. It doesn't matter whether you get your striking techniques from boxing, Muay Thai, Kempo, Kung Fu. There is no more tried and tested tactic for coming out on top in a fight than a relentless barrage of strikes. Whether you come out legally on top is a different thing altogether, but every fighter needs to know how to deliver effective blows. Number 2, sparring. If you want to learn to knit, you get some knitting needles and some yarn and you start knitting. To learn woodworking, you get some tools and some materials and you start a project. You try, you fail, you learn from your mistakes. No matter what you want to do, you have to actually do it in order to learn. Sparring allows us to test ourselves in a controlled environment, but we must also take care not to become overconfident. At some point, we have to increase the power and resistance in order to grow, which brings us to our next point, adaptability. This is a big one that I've been addressing a lot on my channel, and for some reason I don't seem to be getting this point through to certain people. The biggest issue I see with traditional martial artists when they first start testing themselves is a tendency to fixate on prescribed movements. Look at any technique, anything you want, and break it down into individual movements. Each one of those presents an opportunity for something to go wrong or to change. The more movements in a technique, the more likely it is to fail. If you can only pull it off by following that exact sequence of movements. The point of sparring is to get you accustomed to change in the moment. When you can bring your techniques alive under pressure, only then can you truly claim to have mastered them. If a technique has 5 moves in it, and you can skip from 1 to 5 because your opponent pulled away instead of complying like in practice, do it. More importantly, look for those opportunities. Look for alternative ways to apply techniques. If it works on an arm, maybe it'll work on a leg. If you would normally punch, maybe you can use an elbow at close range. If it projects them back, maybe you can snake your leg in there and trip them in the process. Think outside the box. It doesn't make it not your martial art. It doesn't make it not your technique because you made it effective, because you did something to modify it and keep it alive in the moment. That's what martial arts is really about. You learn the prescribed movements, the by rote techniques, so that you can get accustomed to the fundamentals. But you can't consider yourself a proper black belt if all you know is how to follow certain sequences. You have to also be able to bring those sequences alive and to adapt when necessary. Adapt to change, adapt to the fight itself. Every fight is a living thing. And things are going to change and things are going to go wrong, but you can learn to turn those things to your advantage if you bring your techniques alive instead of living in a bunch of cogs and gears in your head. And that's the big problem that I've seen with these traditional martial artists going out and testing themselves and failing. That's why you're failing, because you're used to just following these katas, these sequences, even if you're doing it with another person and they're just complying, you're still not learning a martial art. You're learning to dance. Stop dancing and start fighting. And it doesn't change the martial art. It doesn't, you're not no longer doing that martial art because you brought it alive. You're actually doing it now. That's what that is. It doesn't change the technique because you modified something in the moment. That's actually doing the technique. That's, instead of following the thing that was written down in a book, it's actually doing it. And some people don't agree with me about this. And I'm sorry. Sorry for you. And I guess we're just going to have to agree to disagree, because I'm not interested in any trolling wars and getting in pointless arguments about this crap. This is what it is. This is martial arts. Call it my opinion, whatever. This is how you make it effective. This is how you actually do it. So, get on board and start actually doing martial arts, or stop calling yourself a black belt.